Hello, and welcome to Your Sister in Elections, where today I'm going to be continuing my series looking at the presidential election polls in the competitive swing states and characterizing the electoral map with the candidate that is leading in each swing state, and then looking at the overall map and seeing who will be predicted to win the election as of the polling dates. And it's now the 1st of October, so the election is just over 35 days. I believe it might be 35 days or 34 days at this point. So we're coming up very, very close to the election date, and that is why I'm making much more regular videos. Usually I'd be doing them every month, but given that we're now within the month basically, with many people already voting in and mail-in and early voting. So you're going to see a lot of votes that have already occurred, and it's definitely going to be a big important factor in the upcoming election, which will be held on November 3rd. Now, as you can see, I've already characterized the safe dates as I usually do, and there has been some changes from September 19th, which is when I made the last video and looked at the polls on there. So it's not going to be the exact same map, even though the most part it is pretty similar. And I think in September 19th, it was one of the most positive Trump polls, or average Trump polls in the swing states that it has been for quite a while. However, this has been eaten away at somewhat by the Biden and Democrat campaign. Now, first of all, we're going to just characterize the likely Democratic states, and that still includes Minnesota, Colorado, Nevada, Wisconsin, Michigan, Pennsylvania, Virginia, which I forgot to characterize as a safe state. I'll put that in there. New Hampshire, and these are the safe Democratic states that we have at the moment. And as you can see, that has already pushed Democrats and Joe Biden to victory in the presidential election by winning the 270 electoral votes needed. However, this is not a surprise. Even though Trump won all three of these states here, he only won them by less than 1%. And Joe Biden has definitely resonated well with these voters. Of course, he was very key in the revitalization and the bailing out of the auto industry, which definitely helped voters in Michigan and workers in that area. And of course, his home state, he was born in Scranton, Pennsylvania, so he obviously is going to resonate quite well with these voters. And Wisconsin, only only about a month ago, Biden had he had a lead here, but it was 2 or 3 points. It was definitely the most unstable state that he was going to possibly win. However, he has now helped secure this. I don't know exactly what that's led to. You could say the riots in Kenosha, and definitely the presence of Black Lives Matter could have helped, but I think you could, argue that that only balanced out, if anything, helped Trump. However, the voters have definitely moved into the Biden column in Wisconsin, and at the moment, the Rust Belt is looking almost pretty solid for Joe Biden, which is a terrible sign for Donald Trump, as he definitely needs at least one of these states, if not all of them, to help get himself re-elected for another 4 years in the White House. Now, I'm also going to be going on to the likely Democratic states because there's still quite a few of these. And, the ones I've covered before are Arizona, that is likely. Florida is still in the likely section. And those are the only states that are currently in the likely section. I'm also going to be putting Nebraska's 2nd district. Joe Biden's done pretty well in the urban areas and suburban areas. He's got taken quite a lot of the suburban white women votes, which of course there's going to be a lot of in Nebraska and as well, especially Omaha's suburban areas. And Joe Biden is doing pretty well with them at the moment. He is outperforming Trump in the suburban category, just about. Just about. You look at a few polls, it bounces back and forth, but as long as he does well in the urban area, if he can somewhat contain some support in the suburban areas, a lot better than Hillary Clinton did back in 2016, then he will most likely win Nebraska's 2nd district. However, Arizona has, stayed quite firmly in the Biden campaign. It went down from 5-point lead in in the last video that I covered Arizona in, and Florida, which I definitely think is the least stable of the more stable, the likely or lean Democratic states. It has gone down from being a likely state, which was, I believe, in August, to only 2 point lead. And this is definitely one where Trump could definitely resonate with the voters there. He has definitely made inroads with the Cuban uh, American population, which is focused around Miami-Dade, the south of the state. And he is resonating quite well with these voters, which is very good for his campaign. He could possibly gain a lot of Cuban American votes in counties like Miami-Dade, and possibly win the state when it comes to November. And this currently puts Democrats at 319 votes. However, these two are much less likely for Joe Biden to hold on to than the Rust Belt states. Now we're going to be going over to the Republican states that Trump is holding on to. And Trump has now got a lead. He's got a 2 point lead in Texas, so he's going that by 1 point since the last few months. Actually, it's been very tight in Texas. However, it's starting to go back towards the Republican side, which is understandable when it comes to election. All the more undecided votes, or more, the independents in the state tend to lean more to the Republican and right side of the political spectrum, and especially with the nomination of Amy Coney Barrett is definitely going to help secure some of the voters that were more independent in the state of Texas. So I do expect Texas to be going to Trump in 2020, and Iowa is currently holding with a 1 point lead. So I'm going to put that in the tilt category. It's kind of stayed there for the while. I think it has gone down slightly in the last few months, but Iowa is still holding on for the president. Went for him for 10 points. However, there's also a toss-up state, and that is not North Carolina, sorry. Georgia is a toss-up state. Now, this is pretty important as Donald Trump won this, somewhat comfortably. I believe it was about 3 or 4 points. He won it back in 2016. And of course, Hillary Clinton did pretty well in Georgia compared to past Democratic candidates for a series of decades before that. However, Joe Biden is definitely making inroads here. Atlanta suburbs, of course, in the 2018 midterms, the Democrats did pretty well. The the Senate race between Jon Ossoff and David Perdue is, competitive. I still think David Perdue will come out on top, even though Jon Ossoff is definitely a strong candidate. And Georgia is definitely going to be a competitive state. It's gone from the tilt or the Republican category into a toss-up state, and that is going to be very important for the Democrats in securing a very big victory if that does end up favoring them. And there's two more that I'm going to be putting in, and that is that Ohio has flipped. North Carolina has stayed in the Biden column. However, these are both tilt states with a 1 point lead for the former vice president. And this would put the Democrats at 352. And I think you could argue at that point this would be a landslide victory. And we're not even characterizing. I did forget to characterize Maine second district. Let's say that does stay for the president. However, it could be debated that could go over to Joe Biden, depending how well he does in the Northeast, and especially how well Susan Collins does in her home state of Maine as well in the Senate. However, Ohio flipping from the president who carried the state by almost 10 points back in 2016, 10 points. Obama won the state twice, and Ohio is very well known for being historically the bellwether state, whichever direction the state has gone through. I believe since 1960, that has been the winner of the overall presidential election. And if Ohio does stay in the Biden category, even though it's well within the margin of error, I believe the margin of error, just take the average is 4 points. So all of the likely states you're going to say are definitely going to that candidate probably. And the lean and tilt states, and of course the toss-up states, are not as certain to go for that candidate. They are currently characterized at. But if Joe Biden can hold on to Ohio, take that from the president after losing it by 10 points back in 2016 when Hillary Clinton was running, that would be a huge sign that the Democrats would win nationwide. And this ends the presidential map with 352 for the Democrats, 170 electoral votes for the Republicans, and 16 in the toss-up. So if we're just going to characterize them, I'd probably characterize Georgia going at a tilt for the Republicans, and that would give them 186, but still it's not going to change the result at all. The Democrats and Joe Biden would have easily won this race if the polls at the start of October are anything to go by, or the election in just over a month. I take all these polls from 538 and use the average polling data from a numerous variety of polls. Some lean Democratic, some lean Republican, and some are arguably very neutral. So it's definitely quite a respectable place to get your polling data, and it's definitely not too biased in either direction. And as you can see, this is definitely very pro Joe Biden at the moment. So back to where I was. Thank you for watching. Hope you enjoyed. Remember to like, comment, and subscribe, and I'll see you all again soon.